All right, Michael Knowles, the host of the Michael Knowles Show, former cultural correspondent and current king of trolls. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, and I thank you for bringing up my old title, cultural correspondent, because you got to tune into my show. We have this great new cultural correspondent, anti-millennial. We're going to bring him back. You got to check it out.
He's a breath of fresh air with that light, only youth, only the power of youth.
It's true. These things that you and I don't understand, like canasta and polka dancing, all the things that the young people are doing these days.
It's true. Young folks these days. So I've been watching Hollywood just had one of the worst summers ever. And the worst Labor Day, I think, ever. They didn't even release a new movie for Labor Day. But I have been sitting watching, as a guy who has actually worked quite a lot in Hollywood, I have been sitting and watching the stuff that is coming out of movie stars' faces with absolute shock and disbelief. So I wanted you to do a roundup of what these guys are saying about the rest of us, the people of us who aren't glamorous and, don't make a gazillion dollars for 20 minutes of work. First of all, what happened this summer? It was a disaster, right?
It was an absolute disaster. And Drew, as a guy who's worked very little in Hollywood, I must say I've watched it with pure delight and joy. It is awful. This summer has been the worst box office in a decade.
Wow.
Summer box office is down. It's $3.8 billion just this summer. It's a 14.5% drop since last summer, and year over year, it's a 6.5% drop. Because there were a lot of big movies that came out in the winter and in the spring. You had Beauty and the Beast, Fate of the Furious, Get Out, which is probably the only original movie that's come out all year.
It was actually one of the best. Yeah.
It was a great movie. But otherwise, the summer's been absolutely awful. And I really wonder why. I wonder what's keeping regular Americans away from the movies. So I thought that we would turn to Jennifer Lawrence for comment.
Okay.
It's also scary to know it's been proven through science that human activity, that climate change is due to human activity, and we continue to ignore it. And the only voice that we really have is through voting.
And you have voted
and we voted, and it was really startling. You're watching these hurricanes now, and it's hard, especially while promoting this movie, not to feel Mother Nature's rage.
Scientists like Professor Lawrence to tell us how man-made global warming has been proven by, science. Yeah. And the sheer mockery that she's made, the vitriol she has for her own audience, who are swimming down the street in Houston right now, it makes one wonder why they haven't been able to make it to the box office to see Mother yet.
It's quite amazing. And by the way, Christian Toto, our friend, the critic at Hollywood and Toto, he tells me that Mother actually has an eco message that they're not promoting in the trailers. They're hiding it, but it has this eco mess, slap in the face for everybody. So I'm glad that she's telling us that it's our fault that there are hurricanes. Yeah.
And it is frustrating too, because there's a great cast in that movie. All of them are very talented actors.
Yeah, sure.
And I don't want to go see it now. I'm glad Christian told us about the eco message, because I don't want to pay $15 to nap, but also I don't want to support this nonsense. So we know that Hollywood holds us in contempt, these actors, because you got to remember, actors are weird people. They're marginalized people. They were weirdos in high school. They were weirdos after high school in conservatory or college. They feel persecuted, even though the ones who make it are the most glamorous, wealthy people on planet Earth. So we know they hold us in contempt. But the other thing we learned this summer is that they lie right to our faces. Here is Kathy Griffin. You remember Kathy Griffin held up that severed head of Donald Trump, and then she apologized, and there were the tears. Here's the latest from Kathy Griffin.
You were very sorry at the time. You apologised. Yeah. You were very upset. Are you no longer sorry for it?
Correct. I'm no longer sorry. The whole outrage was BS. The whole thing got so blown out of proportion, and I lost everybody. Like, I had Chelsea Clinton tweeting against me. I had friends. Deborah Messing from Will and Grace tweeting against me. I mean, I lost everybody.
Lose Deborah Messing and Chelsea Clinton. You have lost the world. But I love, dude, they say she's protesting. But I gave my fake apology. I ginned up my fake tears, and you monsters wouldn't accept them. So we know they hold us in contempt. We know that they lied to us. And we know that there's a wonderful double standard. Here is Stephen Colbert, ladies and gentlemen.
a higher level.
Yeah, he's definitely taking it to a higher level. I'd say his support is about up there, right around here.
For those who don't subscribe, he's making a Heil Hitler salute.
Nazi salute, yeah.
He's doing the Nazi salute, and he's making a joke. I get it. What's the big deal? Except that only recently, Donald Trump supporter Jeffrey Lord was fired from CNN for making a similar joke on Twitter about the Nazism of his opponents. It was the exact same joke. Someone tweeted some fascistic thing at him, and he said "Zig Heil."
Right.
He lost his job for it, but Stephen Colbert gets to go out. And the pièce de la résistance, the creme de la creme, the top of the heap. Here is George Clooney laying out the whole Hollywood case against regular Americans.
You guys are pretty interesting, though. They've actually figured out the laws that dictate everything. History, sociology, politics, morality, everything. It's all in a book called Capital, with a K.
That right?
Yeah, you're not gonna believe this. These guys even figured out what's going on here at the studio, because the studio is nothing more than an instrument of capitalism.
It's actually a little too real.
I was going to say the scene where that guy slaps George Clooney may be one of my favorite scenes in recent movies.
I don't know how the Coen brothers got George Clooney to play George Clooney, but it was exactly him. It was really good. And he went on, he just recently said of Steve Bannon, he said, quote, "Steve Bannon's a little wannabe writer who would do anything in the world to have had a script made in Hollywood. He wrote one of the worst scripts I've ever read, and I've read it. His fake Shakespeare-wrapped script about the LA riots, oh, you gotta read it." And he's making fun. I don't know, Steve Bannon might be a failed writer for all I know, but he's not speaking to Steve Bannon. He's speaking through Steve Bannon to the American people, and he's telling them, you little people, you disgust me, you're nothing, look at me, we are the kings of the world, we are Hollywood, and you wish that you could be us.
The two things that shock me about this, there are two things that shock me about it. One is, you know, these guys live like kings on our favor, our favor. You know, the club, the Garrick Club in London is the club for actors, and its slogan is an old quote that we who live to please must please to live, right? So these guys, every time they open their mouths, are telling 40 million people, don't come to our movies, we hate you. Don't, you know, everything you do, it disgusts us, we hate you. And the other thing is that it never occurs, and George Clooney's not a stupid man. I mean, he is, you know, some of these actors I know are dopes. I mean, you know, I deal with you, I know what actors
every day.
But no, Clooney is not a stupid man. But it never occurs to him that a factory worker in Michigan may know more about what he needs politically and may know more about what's wrong with his life than a movie actor in Los Angeles who hasn't done anything real for 20 years. I mean, it doesn't occur to him to have any respect for the people who voted for Donald Trump, saying, yeah, I can see. It's not as if Donald Trump was running against Abraham Lincoln. Donald Trump was running against the guy Kurt Schlichter calls Felonia pantsuit. You know, I mean, like, he was running against a criminal. So, you know, it's just an incredible amount of disrespect for the audience.
And there are two sides of this. There's the celebrity side. Obviously, we worship celebrities, and that gave us Barack Obama and also Donald Trump. And so there's this outside role that people who, like actors, were once lumped in with prostitutes for all of history are now preaching our geopolitics and political philosophy. But then on the other side, there's been a flattening of celebrity because of new media, because of social media. We see their private lives. We see what scum they are, basically. We see how tawdry their own lives are. And so I think people are turning off and staying home and watching television, which is where a lot of the great art is right now anyway.
I mean, that clip you showed from Hail Caesar is all about the way they tried to protect these guys' reputation, but that's all over. And when you see that a guy has gotten divorced 3 times, or that his children are alcoholic, or that everything in his life, you know, why should you take his advice? Why should you take his advice? Because he's handsome and, you know, can stand in front of a camera reading somebody else's lines? It doesn't make any sense at all. Absolutely right. Michael Knowles, the Michael Knowles Show comes on after this, so cling to your computers,
iPads or
your
something,
iPads
your
or whatever the hell you're
computers,
looking at. And all right, thanks a lot, Michael. We'll talk to you again.
See you, Drew.
All right.